Thank you all for joining us. It's an exciting time to be talking about the things, about the region. And I'm excited for WFE to be here at its first FIAB, my first FIAB. The reason we wanted to come is because this is a time of particular hope in LATAM. Not only a time of hope because of opportunity, but really because there's much work to be done. And also we have enormously dynamic leadership with Olga, Juan Pablo, and of course you, Laura, and BME, leading the vision and the thinking and seizing the opportunity for the region. So in this conference today, for the last 2 days, we've heard a lot of interesting things. And we've heard a lot also about opportunity. We've heard a lot of talk about the role of the exchange, and the role of the exchange and what FIAB does, what Latinex does, what nuam will do, what BME does. These are central to the development of the economy, to the capital markets that are so important to the region, and really to the future of everyone in this room. Coming into this conversation, there were two things I wanted to do, and the first of which is look at some of the statistics. And when you look at the statistics, LATAM obviously tells a conventional story of a region that is emerging. So, LATAM accounts for 1/10, I believe, of trading. The average size of the LATAM exchange is smaller than in comparable emerging markets. I believe 1%, according to WFE statistics, about 1 to 3% of trading globally occurs in the LATAM region. So why do we talk about opportunity? I think that there is great opportunity. And with that, I want to ask you, Olga, what is your vision for the region?
I would say that, first of all, thank you for coming, Nandini, all the way from London to be here with us in FIAB and Latinex Investment Forum. It is truly a privilege to have you here. I would say that my vision for the region, it's what's happening at this moment. What Juan Pablo was talking about today, what Pablo from BME was talking, what Gerardo from America, particularly from the Nicaraguan Stock Exchange, was saying. We, as you had just mentioned with the statistics, we are very small. Juan Pablo was saying earlier that we are seen as one, it's Latin America, but from the inside, we are so dispersed. We are individuals, individual markets, and very small markets. I find it, in some way, I make jokes about it when I hear Juan Pablo or I hear from Chile and from other markets that they're relative small markets. So if Chile, Colombia, and Peru have decided and have envisioned to have a market integration, exchanges integration, because they consider themselves smaller, what can the rest of us say or think? We have B3, we have Brazil, we have Mexico. I believe, Juan Pablo, and I'm not quite sure that the integration of the three markets is going to be equal or a bit smaller than Mexico. So a bit smaller, right, as far as market cap. So we have then Brazil, we have Mexico, we have nuam exchange, and we have the rest of the markets. What is my vision? To have more market integration, less market fragmentation. That's what I see.
And I think that is part of the opportunity, right? This is a moment, it feels like there's change in the region. And while we look at the statistics, the reason I wanted to start with the statistics is because they are conventional, it's a conventional story, and yet we are at a time of change, of hope for the region, led by the exchanges. So Juan Pablo, you are driving some of that change. What is your vision, apart from more integration too?
Well, I've been busy. No, I think that, I mean, what Olga was saying, and to your point, we definitely need to work on increasing the scale of our markets. I mean, focusing in improving scale and also ease of access. One of the challenges that we face is that because there are 17 or 18 markets, each of them very small, the investor from outside of the country needs to learn 17 or 18 different processes and memberships, etc., to be able to have access to a diversified portfolio of instruments in Latin America. That doesn't make sense as a value proposition from the countries in the region vis-a-vis the global investor. So definitely building scale, simplifying processes, one phase, one process for all of the region, hopefully. Right now we're working in 3 countries, but as Olga was mentioning, why not think about or dream about other markets? And that is a case for hope. I mean, we're going to be busy in the next few years, but definitely there's more to build on in the future. The other element that I would like to single out is that in the conversation about sustainability and green finance, and something very dear to your heart, green equity, Latin America has a lot to offer. So definitely, if we build the infrastructure so that we can have the scale, if we can have the visibility, if we can have simplified processes, then this value proposition from Latin America, where we can be green and we can be sustainable and we can find financing from abroad that needs to start investing in regions that can contribute to the global climate and sustainable conversation around the world, I think it makes a lot of sense for Latin America, and it's something that I am personally very hopeful for, and I will be happy to work with anyone who wants to work on that, because I believe that Latin America can position itself as the green continent for sure in the world and help on the transition conversation.
You know, before I go to you, Laura, I just wanted to say, Juan Pablo, that's a really good point, because certainly around the WFE table, Latinex, you know, I was going to say Colombia, but I will call it nuam now, the 3 markets coming together, and BME. I mean, you are all leaders around the Sustainability Working Group table. You might be an emerging market, but you know, a smaller market than some of those at that table. But the 3 markets here on this panel are absolutely leaders and pioneers in the ESG space in terms of innovation, product, and leadership. Laura, what is BME's vision for the region? You have a particular special and unique role to play. BME has always been the connecting point, the bridge, you know, between LATAM and the larger developed world.
Sí, gracias. Nosotros desde BME efectivamente lo que vemos es una región diversa, pero también muy rica, sobre todo en una base de inversores, ¿no? Y ahí está, digamos, el potencial para que toda esta región, en lo que es mercados de capitales, pueda crecer y unirse. De alguna manera, en Europa nosotros pasamos por lo mismo. Acordaros que eran Estados miembros diferentes y se fue produciendo la integración poco a poco. Lo que vemos también es que Latinoamérica está en un mejor momento que cuando eso sucedió en Europa. ¿Por qué? Porque precisamente tenemos aceleradores, como puede ser la tecnología, que hagan que esa base de inversores sea mucho más productivizada en el sentido de rentable, ¿no? Podemos llegar a más inversores con la tecnología, podemos democratizar más a los inversores y, en definitiva, podemos tener más inversiones, más acceso a productos financieros y un mercado retail también más desarrollado. Entonces, esa es una gran ventaja, ¿no? Lo que vemos. Otra de las grandes ventajas es lo que se ha estado hablando aquí en torno a todo el tema medioambiental, ¿no? En Latinoamérica está llamada a ser una potencia medioambiental, obviamente. Tiene un potencial agroindustrial muy grande y tiene una riqueza en recursos naturales, ¿no? Sería un poco de locos no conservarla, y yo creo que se están haciendo todos los esfuerzos. Leía una estadística que me dejó impresionada, y es que más del 50% de los activos de las instituciones financieras latinoamericanas pertenecen a instituciones que están en la alianza de Net Zero, con lo cual, o sea, el compromiso está ahí, hay que materializarlo. También hay que hacer un esfuerzo muy grande en temas de integración. Hemos estado hablando esta mañana temas de taxonomía, temas de unificación, de normalización. Entonces, cuando sea fácil, digamos, tener todos los circuitos conectados, las integraciones y los instrumentos financieros dentro de las infraestructuras de mercado, estoy segura que los volúmenes van a crecer y vamos a tener, en definitiva, lo que perseguimos, ¿no?, con las integraciones, unos mercados mucho más profundos.
Thank you. I'm going to actually ask you to think a little bit or tell us a little bit, all three of you, what are the three greatest challenges that we must overcome together? And Olga, I'm looking at you because you are the farthest along and right in my line of vision. So your challenges first. And actually, let me be more specific. I want to hear the greatest challenges you see in the region, but I also want to hear from you what you believe might be the solution.
I'm going to say regulation overdose. and the reason I say that is we do, as market infrastructure, need regulation. And regulation provides investors with the confidence that they need to be in the market, but having regulation overdose can also be a burden. And it's a very, very high competition when you have new products and services that are non-traditional and that have easy access to the segmentation of the population that is not being attended either by the banking sector or the capital markets. So I would say that not having regulators on board with what's happening, and I'm just going to say something. I was in a meeting with regulators from the region, and I was caught by a comment that one of the regulators said when they were referring to fintech, and they were saying, yes, because this is happening, and I said, no, it's not happening. It happened, and nothing has been done. So as market infrastructures, we have to be cautious that the products and the services that we provide to the market have that protection to the investors. But when we don't have a market or a framework, a regulation for fintechs, for sandboxes, for crowdfunding, for everything that's out there, digital tokenization of assets as well. There's some markets with crypto exchanges as well.
They're not exchanges, they're platforms, and they should never be called exchanges unless they have a license, the same license that you, nuam, and BME
Correct.
has.
Platforms, but then it's out there. And some of the exchanges are not being part of what's happening, and we are being left behind because there's no regulation to accompany us with what we want to do. So is there an opportunity? Of course there's an opportunity, and we should be part of what's happening. And I would just say that, and I would leave it there, because I'm sure I don't want to be repetitive, and I know that you're going to add more to it. And I don't mean it in a bad way when I say regulation overdose, but it is a reality that we all face in the region.
I think that you have absolutely put your finger on kind of one of the most fundamental challenges that exchanges have, market infrastructures have. We are the regulated part of the market. That is our USP. But at the same time, innovation is seen as happening outside the regulated space, especially in the recent kind of wave of digital excitement that we've seen. And I think for exchanges, for all of you, for the WFE, for FIAB, for all of us, our challenge is partly also to illustrate to regulators that innovation needs to occur within a regulated context. So if it looks like a security, if it trades like something on an exchange, if it should be cleared with the same protections that a CCP offers, it needs a regulatory framework that looks very similar. Juan Pablo.
No, absolutely. I fully agree with Olga and what you were saying, that the main challenge comes from regulation. And it has, in my view, it has two facets. I mean, one is a level playing field that we were discussing, that regulated markets seem to be in a continuum of regulation over regulation over regulation, and there's a huge array of financial products and services out there that are not being regulated and are not being regulated at all or at the same level. And that also comes at the conversation also has to do with speed. That if you want to adjust, and probably it's what Olga was saying, if you need to adjust a regulation, if it takes 2, 3, 4 years to change a specific rule for regulated exchanges, then you're losing all the competitive edge vis-a-vis the other participants. So level playing field regulation is a key issue that, let's say, hinders our ability to respond to our participants, to respond to our clients. In a way, it's an issue of we're competing with a limp or something like that. No. The other element, which you probably have heard also before, is that the regulation that came about after 2008 has had unwanted consequences on particularly smaller emerging markets. And the regulation has tended to concentrate liquidity in the bigger, more established markets. And for Latin America, the big competition is New York. We're not competing between ourselves, we're all buddies. Really, the big competition is New York. And what we're seeing today is that the investment bankers in New York are having a feast, going to all of our issuers in all of our countries saying, why are you in these small countries, in these small markets? Come to New York, we're so much better, we're so much bigger. So that competition has become very, very complicated because it sort of hinders the liquidity virtuous cycle. If everybody moves to New York, then yes, New York continues to concentrate, and you're seeing the IPOs in New York and not in our markets. And I mean, we're trying to fight it back, but it's a very difficult scenario, and it's also driven by regulation.
Can I add to that?
Please.
And now we're talking about non-core traditional products and services. But even with those, we have a problem. We're talking about earlier yesterday a study that we did thanks to the IDB on how to bring SMEs to the capital markets. Even with that, we're not talking about any rocket science new product for the market. It's just traditional market products and services to bring SMEs to the markets. And we even have a problem with that, thanks to regulation, because they are treated the same way as any other corporation. So there needs to be an adjustment in regards to that.
Laura.
Sí, uno de los mayores retos para los mercados latinoamericanos también es el relacionarse o el aprovechar, en este caso, con los cambios geopolíticos que está habiendo el eje, digamos, Europa, Estados Unidos, Latinoamérica, ¿no? Y para esto, pues volvemos otra vez a los temas de integración. Se necesita conectar a Latinoamérica con los jugadores internacionales. Precisamente hoy en España está habiendo una cumbre importante entre los ministros de Finanzas de Latinoamérica y el Caribe y la Unión Europea. Son muchos los fondos que se van a vehiculizar entre Europa y Latinoamérica. Todo eso, darles salida en las infraestructuras de mercado y ponerlo al servicio del crecimiento de las empresas latinoamericanas es muy importante porque es un círculo virtuoso. Y ahí yo creo que nosotros en BME hemos jugado un papel importante porque hemos hecho el puente, digamos, entre Europa y Latinoamérica, ¿no? Lógicamente, por nuestro idioma, nuestra cultura y nuestros orígenes, creo que somos ese puente y tenemos un buen ejemplo en un mercado que se llama Latibex, que es un mercado de empresas latinoamericanas que cotizan euros, y también es la virtud de diversificar esas inversiones, ¿no? Y otro tema importante, yo creo, es tratar de darles a los mercados también diferentes segmentos y que podáis atraer las pymes, ¿no? Las pequeñas y medianas empresas. También en BME hemos creado un mercado que se llama Growth, ha tenido bastante éxito con la sequía que tenemos mundial de IPOs. Estamos viendo que se está concentrando ahí la liquidez, ¿no? Y ahora mismo también hemos creado un mercado que se llama Scale, precisamente por todo este ecosistema de startups, ¿no? Pues para que no se nos vaya un poco al otro lado, que sabemos que es el Venture Capital, y se venga a las infraestructuras de mercado a buscar esa liquidez, ¿no? Por ahí veo un poquito los retos.
Thank you. With 5 minutes left to go, I'm going to ask each of you to look into the future. We are back here on this stage in Panama in 5 years' time. and Juan Pablo is particularly big on KPIs, so I'm going to ask you, each of you, give me what will it look like in 5 years' time if we have success? What is the metrics for success that you would see at the 5-year mark as a milestone? I think
Me?
you're first.
Just
yeah,
me?
you're first. No, I'll ask everyone, but you first.
Well, of course. I have 3. Very easy. So one, nuam integration is a big success and it's a good example for the region. And everybody's talking about it and how to create these types of integrations so that we can present ourselves as a single market to the world. 2, Latin America has definitely found a way to position itself as the green continent of the world and offering green and sustainable financial opportunities or investment opportunities for investors around the world. And finally, joining efforts with BME and the other exchanges in the region, we've found a way to get the startups to come to organized markets and not veer away to the world of venture capital and so forth.
Olga.
I agree with everything he said, and I'm going to say it differently. I see in 5 years, Latin American capital markets that have fully embedded sustainability within their operations and stakeholders, and obviously with the green market that Juan Pablo was mentioning as well. I see more market integration. We need to have more market integration. We're small markets, I insist with that, and we need to open the boundaries that we have at this moment. And I also see markets that have adopted international standards. We need to have international investors in our market. We need to see ourselves. I'm not going to say in 5 years as one, because that's not going to happen, but I do see us together working and accepting international investors, and to be able to do that, we need to have international standards and best practices in place and speak a common language. Most of us speak Spanish, but I'm talking in financial common language.
I think that the 3 of you are members of WFE, and that's really one step towards, that means all 3 of you have met international best standards and best practice as exchanges. So that's one of, KPI is everyone in every exchange in the region is a member. Laura.
Yo en 5 años me gustaría ver y escuchar la narrativa en los foros internacionales acerca de Latinoamérica como algo muy positivo, algo que no se perciba como fragmentado, algo que no se perciba como riesgo y, bueno, por supuesto, nuam creciendo a doble dígito, Juan Pablo, con esos volúmenes arriba y, por supuesto, siendo una potencia verde como se merece Latinoamérica y como creo que es su papel en 5 años.
So all of those ambitious but achievable, different. So there's plenty of room for all of you to have, impact on the market. I would say one thing. I would say that the success of the capital market, the success of the exchange doesn't happen in isolation. It needs to happen hand in hand with the stakeholders. All of you in this room, you need to support the exchange with action, with practice, and actually with firm steps, walking on the road with them towards development, because only together the exchange and the market can grow. So I wish you, all 3 of you, every success. I have no doubt that in 5 years we'll come back and we'll have beaten all these metrics and we can have a conversation about the next milestone. So congratulations and every best wish.
Thank you.
Gracias.